GUTTEPRAT, episode 4. This time, we are not with Tom Dent. We are with someone different to him for the first time. It's Sandefjord centre back, Quint Jansen. How are you doing?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Tough weekend with the loss, so the mood is not perfect, but we keep on working.
Yeah, I thought when you took the lead against Glimt, you personally took the lead against Glimt a couple of weekends ago. I thought, oh, we're in for a bit of a resurgence here. Hasn't worked out that way. I mean, as we said just before we started recording, I do think Sandford have got enough to stay up, but it looks like the qualic now is going to be an almost a certainty, really. And that Hamcam game is huge. The Hamcam game coming up is absolutely massive, and we're not going to talk about that. We'll talk about better things. But yeah, good luck for the rest of the season. I think you've got enough. We both do. And hopefully, speaking to us won't see you end up getting injured like every other footballer we've spoken to. Literally.
No, I
Yeah.
already did that last week, so
Yeah. Well, that was
I've
the
got
thing.
it over and done with.
Yeah. I inboxed you on Instagram and then you were injured. And then it was like, oh, God, another one. Take another one down. Right. Really quickly, we're just going to go through a bit about Quint. 32. Originally from the Netherlands. And you actually played for Hellas Sport from 2008 to 2014. Was that like a little, were they like a semi-pro club or was it actual professional setup or what's the story there?
no, not a professional setup. It's an amateur club in the Netherlands. That's at that time betting big on the youth.
Right.
So you see, actually, a lot of professional players have a background in Hellas-Sport.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sadly, the club is no longer existing. It's gone together with several other clubs in my hometown.
Mm.
So Hellas-Sport is no longer existing.
Oh, that is a shame. I mean, I can see from Wikipedia it said that you played 148 games and scored 46 goals. So were you just like a really offensive centre back, or did you play in a different position back in the day?
Yeah, back in the day, I was an offensive midfielder,
Right.
and sometimes
Oh,
a
wow.
striker. And in Norway, I got transformed to a centre back.
How did that happen? What was the reasoning behind the change in position?
I was playing in Tredje Division in Junkeren in Bodø, and
Yep.
then we had a guy training with us that was playing in Andre Division in Finnsnes, and they needed players, but they only needed centre
Right.
backs. And so then I just said, well, I can play centre back.
Fair play. Stepped up to the
So,
occasion.
yeah, so then I got invited on a trial, and I did well. So they offered me a contract, and from then on, I've been a centre back.
Nice. So in another life, you could have been, banging in the goals rather than trying to prevent them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
my friends in the Netherlands, they still call me Peter Crouch. So
Brilliant.
Yeah. So after Hellas Sport, like you said, you went to Junkeren, and you moved up to Bordeaux for your girlfriend, wasn't it? That was the big move that you made. Yeah. And then ever since then, it's been Finnsnes, Mjøndalen, Ålesund, and now Sandfjord.
yes.
Yeah. So quite a journey to go from Hellas Sport in the Netherlands to the Arctic Circle and then never really go home.
Yeah, a really big journey. A lot of coincidences.
Mm.
It all started with a half a year of travel in Asia, where I met my ex-girlfriend, and then we stayed in touch until there was a spark, and I decided to move to Buda, and from then on, it's been one hell of a ride with football.
See, they're the best journeys. They're the best life stories when you just go and do something and then things happen because of that. When you're not trying to plan absolutely every step of your life all the time. You go, right, I'm going to go and do this because I want to do it. And then something organically happens from that experience. And then it leads you to another part of your life that becomes beneficial to you and it stays with you. I know quite a few people who have done that, and it's a similar story with Tom as well. How he took that chance to move to Norway, and it's just stuck. And now he's in the job that he loves, in the place that he loves, in the part of the world that he loves, and he's recently got married. It's just that doing what you want to do and then making it count. And I think that's a really, really cool story. Right. I would say we could sit here talking about you and your career and your journey and your story for a long time, but this is not what we're here for. As good as that would be. First of all, why don't we just go around with what we're drinking? I'm going to show you mine. I'm drinking a Black Sheep citrus pale ale with orange and coriander in a Birra Moretti glass. And it's a little bit early in the day, but it's actually really nice. It's only 4%, so it's quite a nice light drink.
Keep you going, yeah, for sure. Well, last week I mentioned that I'm going October without drinking, but this week I've headed down to the shop, tried to pick something out a bit different, and ended up with something from the meal deal section that has alcohol in it. I have no idea how I've managed to do that, but I shan't be drinking it. It's just here for show. But
Jackie's
I look forward to
grapefruit.
trying that in a week or two.
I've got a local drink for this.
I thought you might have water, yeah.
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 Pumped
Yeah.
up from the ground a couple of kilometers from here.
Nice. And
Local delicacy.
I imagine that was about 60 kroner or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I almost had to take a loan
Yeah.
to get that water.
Yeah. That's the thing that we noticed. I've been to Norway a couple of times, and it's like, yeah, you get a bottle of water and it's just as much as Pepsi Max or like a cocktail or something. It's insane, but it is all good. Right. So the most recent run of games, 26. Quite a lot happened, a lot of clean sheets, quite a few results that maybe we thought would have gone differently. Nevertheless, some really, really good games there. And why don't we kick off with our let's start with the result of the week. I'm going to go first, just get mine out of the way. This isn't the HamKam buyer speaking, but I am going with the 0-0 away draw at Ålesund. And I just say that because we're at the part of the season now where Quint knows all too well. Every point you're picking up when you're involved in that part of the table is absolutely massive. And I had this game down as a really comfortable win for Ålesund. I thought it'd be like 1 or 2-0. They wouldn't really break too much of a sweat. Yeah, we know that HamKam are going to approach that game in a way where they want to consolidate and just hope that the results around them, go their way, and then they can go into that Sandefjord game and the rest of the season and get the results that they need. I never thought HamKam would really come away with anything from this game, and I know Tom's listening, so sorry, Tom, but he knows this anyway. I said that I thought that's what would happen, but yeah, this game, it just showed their resolve, and it just showed the fact that they really don't want to go down, that they are fighting for their life, and they were up for that game to end 0-0. I think they were helped by, obviously, Sandefjord dropping points last weekend as well. Obviously, the gap, and Christiansand as well. Obviously, both of them losing their games and HamKam getting that draw. It just gives them a little bit more buoyancy in that area. But yeah, for me, that was my result of the week. But not so great for fantasy because I had Moses BA captained, and pretty much every single shot he took was off target. So
yeah,
that wasn't particularly helpful for me there.
Yeah, I had the same game down as my result of the week. It's a matter of HamKam, again, as we've talked about before, being able to pick up points where some of the other teams won't be getting that single point. And those single points are what's adding up over the course of the season and what looks to be the thing that's going to end up saving them. And Dent will be happy. The whole HamKam side can be happy with that performance. We both had that down as an Ålesund win for the weekend. This was actually, I believe, the first week all season that across my predictions, I didn't have a clean sheet. So, of course, we see a bucket load of clean sheets this week, 0-0 in that game, obviously. Melgarvis and Kurosai's performances were highlights for me as well. I thought they played absolutely exceptional.
Yep. Yeah. Malgovic showing again that he's more than just creating chances on that right hand side. He'll do a lot of movement. He'll do a lot of running. He'll win the ball back. He'll just build up play nicely with his teammates. Real plus having him in the side. What was your result of the week, Quint?
I know it was a red card, but I still think Vålerenga losing 6-0 of Bodø/Glimt is a big result. Even though you're down to 10 men, then I think 6-0 is too much, especially for a club as Vålerenga who has ambition to come to top 3.
I mean, I almost went with that one. It's a weird one because their form has been so good at home lately, Vålerenga. And before that, they'd won, 4 or 5 on the bounce, and actually won their last 2 games 4-0. Goodser and Sandefjord. I'm sorry, Quint. We seem to always be linking Sandefjord into all this chat. I'm not intending. I'm not intentionally doing that. But yeah, I mean, 6-0 at home, it is embarrassing. It was an embarrassment. The first 15 minutes before Sueng's red card was embarrassing. The way that Anger were approaching that game, I was thinking, without the red card, this is going to be a big defeat. They looked awful. I don't know what they were doing. They just couldn't string passes together. They let Glimt have all of the ball. It was like they were the away side long before that red card. And I say long before, it was 15 minutes when they got the red card. But for that 15 minutes, I was thinking when this first goal comes in, there's going to be another couple coming in straight away afterwards. And yeah, the red card was just the catalyst to push that along. And yeah, I think that's them out of the medal places now for the league. And I was pretty confident that they'd get third. But yeah, I had that down as a narrow Enger win. That's what I thought was going to happen. So for them to lose 6-0, yeah, I mean, the only reason that I didn't say that was because of the red card. But in all honesty, if that red card wasn't there, they probably still would have lost 3-0, you know?
Yeah. I mean, a red card's always going to be a huge factor in terms of the implication for the results in a game. But having that against Bodø Glimt is not the time to be going down to 10 men. Like, completely picked apart in the midfield. Grönbeck and Berg had fantastic games, and yeah, 6-0 was more than a fair result. Vålerenga just weren't up for it at all.
Yeah. I mean, one person that I think has stood out for me this week and is my player of the week is Ingebrigtsen at Odd.
Yeah.
I was watching through the highlights and his goals were sensational. And I think this is a question that I'm going to put to you, Quint. As a defender, how do you react to those goals? How do you defend against that sort of thing? Because I don't know if you've seen the goals, but he puts them in a place where the goalkeeper's never going to get to them. Really, really beautiful curl right into the corner. But his second goal, especially, wasn't from an area that I thought, oh, okay, he's going to take that shot on and score with such ease, you know? So as a defender, I'm assuming there's only so much that you can do. And then it's just the brilliance of that player and just the shot being perfect that you think, well, you know, I can't really defend against that.
Yeah, some goals are just undefendable, and as a defender, you want to work together with your keeper to minimize the chances of goals, of course. So what I always try to do is cover one corner and then give the goalkeeper the other corner. So yes, we cover most of the goal, but of course it's not always possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looked like a different player this week as well, it must be said. Like the amount of confidence he was playing with, especially after he put that first goal in, and to execute the second as well as he did the first was just fantastic. He looked like he'd just stepped his game up completely.
Well, with
probably motivated against his own old team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he was involved in a lot of aspects in that game. So 4 shots, 3 in the box, 0.32 expected goals, up to 0.79 goals on target. So good finishing there, as we've already said. But also as well, 2 key passes, which led to 1 big chance being created, 3 out of 5 long balls being completed, 9 accurate final third passes, 6 recoveries, 3 out of 4 ground duels won. You know, he was involved in loads of aspects of that game. It wasn't just the case of him picking up the ball, shooting twice, and getting 2 goals. You know, he was involved in getting the ball back, winning the ball back, getting stuck in, helping his team for the duration of that game. And yeah, for me, that's why he's player of the week, because it wasn't just those 2 brilliant goals. It really was pretty much everything else he did as well. Simple as that, really, for me.
Yeah, I was really tempted to, after talking about him multiple times recently, to go for Serbicic as my player of the week. I think he's been hard done by, especially from us looking at it as fantasy players, not to
Yeah.
get some bonus points there. But key part of that Orlison clean sheet, 2 of his 3 tackles won, 6 recoveries, 3 out of 3 ground duels, 4 out of 4 aerial duels. He was just unbeatable this weekend, yet again, and he's such a crucial part of this Orlison side. We said we thought they'd win, but to keep that clean sheet, to keep Hamcam out as well, he played such a huge role in that. My award, in fact, does go to another centre back in John Norheim. I think he was huge for Yev this weekend. 15 clearances, 5 recoveries, 8 out of his 11 aerial duels won as well. His aerial presence was just fantastic, and it made all the difference in what is a crucial win for them.
What about you, Quint? Who are you going with?
I agree. John Olaf Noorem was a big presence for Jerv. He's a really strong defender. I have to say, we made it easy as well by putting all the balls on his head.
Yeah, always
He's a
helps,
bit,
always helps.
yeah, he's a bit of a giant, so yeah, it definitely helps him. One of the things that I wanted to draw attention to was your season so far, Quint, as well. So we talked about Jesper Taya last episode about how he's seemingly going under the radar. No one's really talking about him, and he's been one of the standout defenders, in the league this season. And I know we're looking at Sandefjord in terms of conceding more goals than what you'd like and being involved at the bottom of the table, but I don't think it's one of those weird ones where like you look at your individual defenders and it's like you all do something quite well, but then together there's something missing for some reason. I don't know whether it's the players in front of you or what. And then you've got a really good goalkeeper as well. I just don't look at your team as thinking, oh, these should be easy to score against, but it seems to be the case every now and then. But yourself, like you've made 120 interceptions this season, which is third at Sandefjord, joint 15th in the league. And Taya has made 207, second in the league. So like a decent partnership there. 27 aerial duels inside the box for you. Again, second at the club behind Taya with 46 and 0.78 shots per blocked per 90 for yourself and 1.36 for Taya. So, both of you are doing those parts of the game quite well. What's missing? What's going on in your opinion? Is it just overall communication? Is it just being overwhelmed in midfield? Because I can't really look at it and go, oh, you've all been really poor, because I don't think that you have been.
No, well, I think that's the whole case. Like, there's not one point that we can say this is it. There has been individual mistakes by me, by Toya as well. There's been mistakes by the people in front of us, mistakes by the keeper. So it's not one point that we can point out and say that's what's wrong with our defense. But the facts are that we have conceded way too many goals.
We just hope that you can obviously turn it around before you go down, because I feel like someone like Taya, he obviously joined you guys from the Orbos last season. He's going to want to be in the Elite Serien. I'd imagine, Jakob as well, yourself, there'd be a lot of you who would be wanting to move straight back into Elite Serien, if not move on. So it could be really damaging, and I really hope that you can turn that around. But yeah, I mean, I was going through the stats and I was surprised to see that. I was thinking, yeah, I mean, you've actually done all right. I mean? Yeah, you've not done badly at all. But yeah,
have both centre backs in top 20s across all those metrics you mentioned as well. And to still, as you rightly said, it doesn't look like a side that's going to be conceding a lot of goals. 2 fantastic aerial presences in the defence. Yet it's just not come together.
And especially when a lot of teams in the Elite Serien play with a back three as well. To be in like the top 15, for example, it's not like the top 8 clubs or whatever. It could be like the top 6 clubs, realistically speaking, over the average there. So yeah, absolutely not indicative of relegation form with the centre backs performances this season at all. So hopefully you can turn it around, and I do have faith that you will do because of those reasons. That kind of leads us on to the goal of the week, and again, our main talking point this week is how hard it is to defend against attackers, to defend against these sorts of goals. For that reason, I've picked Tobias Heinz's goal because he picks it up really wide, really far out wide on Viking's right-hand side. And then he just sort of cuts inside, drifts past a few defenders, brings it to the outside of the box, and then he just shoots at Gunnarsson's near post, and it just roots him to the spot. And like Gunnarsson's just there, just like, what am I doing there? What am I meant to do?
Yeah.
And it was just all those things put together. He didn't get the ball in the spot where he shot from. He got it out wide and brought it through, brought it around the defense. Took it to a central area and then wrong-footed the goalkeeper from about 18 yards, 20 yards. I mean, again, when you look at that sort of goal, as a defender, as a centre-back, I imagine you'll be communicating with your fullback to say, okay, stop him from coming in. But then you've got to be aware of, is he going to try and link up with somebody else and play it around you? You'll be scanning in front of you and, make sure that no one's going to try and make a run past you. You got all these thoughts going on in your head, but he can do that in about 4 seconds. So,
yeah.
And I think this is what people don't appreciate. He's doing that so quickly, and you have all of those things to process, to articulate, to move, to ready your stance, to communicate with your goalkeeper. And it's before you can even, remember to breathe, and then you'll be, and then you might be criticized in saying, oh, well, how did they let him do that? And I'm thinking, it's easy to watch a replay and talk about that, but in the actual moment where it's happening, you have very, very limited amount of time in which you can respond and get ready for that shot. How do you deal with that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's difficult. You try to do as much as possible beforehand, of course, like orientation and being in the right position. But once you're in the situation, you don't have the time to communicate or look around you. Then you just have to defend.
Yeah.
And of course, Tobias Heinz is a really good player. Everyone has always seen the talent he has, and maybe it doesn't come out always. But I think this season, and especially I think it's the last 10 games, he's been magnificent. And Salzburg as well, getting a lot of goals against, but you could always have seen through how they've been playing that they are too good to be stuck down there. And I think that has been coming out recent weeks where they have won a lot of games.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Salzburg is they lost 8 games in a row. And then in their last 6 games, they've won 5, drawn 1.
Yeah.
It's just they've been able to stop themselves from free falling like that. And I think a lot of that has come from Selectors and Heinz just stepping up and doing what they do best. And that goal, that was a 1-0 win away to Viking. That was a close game, by the scoreline. And the kind of goal that they scored, just sort of sums up the resilience in that team. And I think it is worth pointing out as well that in that run of 6 games where they're unbeaten, they only drew with one team, and that was yourself.
Yeah, and we gave away the 3 points there, I think, by a late equalizer.
Yeah.
But also in that game, I think Salzburg played well, and you can see clear patterns and good tactical plan in how they play. And I think Tobias Heinz is a big part in that.
Yeah, I think so too.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's that ability of Salzburg. Like, we know that they can have these good runs of forms. They've had one earlier in the start of the season as well, where they are just scoring for fun. It's just this little spell of form has thrown their season off course completely. But as you rightly say, Tobias Heinz stepping up in such a way has been a huge, huge factor in stopping the free fall. The thing about that goal for me this week is the way he cuts past the first player, the fullback, and then opens up for the shot, but then takes it past the second. It's that almost second cut in and the composure to do that and not just go, the goal is now there, let's take the shot on, to further get advanced, further get central into a better position to take the shot. Obviously, that allows him to wrong foot the goalkeeper and put it back across him. It's just all comes together so nicely. And that was very, very close for me for my goal of the week. I actually ended up going for Antonsen at Tromsø for the 2-2 in the 89th minute.
Sensational.
Not only, beautiful volley, low driven, and to get an equaliser in the 89th minute that then sets your team up for a winner in the 94th with the Kitolano penalty. such big implications for that goal as well. So Antonsen for me takes it, but Heinz's goal also just magnificent.
See, what do you think of Antonsen as a player, Quint? Because I actually think he's really good. I think he's a really decent player, and I've not heard anybody mention him this season. But I think he's one of those players that will just turn up to training, go into a game, do what needs to be done, and then just go home. He seems to be that kind of player where he just does the basics so well, and he's a solid, reliable player. And you've got him in your team, you know what you're getting from him, and you can rely on him. He just must.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
And what I
like,
think as well is really positive with him is like, is there a position that he hasn't played in? Like
wow,
he can
exactly.
play
Yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I've seen games where he's been used further out wide, he's been pushed into midfield, back into centre back, central centre back position, further out wide in the centre back
yeah.
position. He's like the James Milner of the Elite Syrian sort of player. That's the kind of player that he is, and I don't think he gets anywhere near enough the amount of credit. And he's not exactly this big, towering, imposing player either. Yeah, he's just this average-looking guy, and he'll just do what you need from him better than most people. And we were speaking with Tom Dent about Trumps' season, and how we're talking about, they probably not getting, going to get into the top 5 or whatever. And he's like, the fact that we're even mentioning them potentially being around the top 5 is ridiculous. They have had such a good season; they shouldn't be up as high as they are. And I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that they've got players like Antonsen in different positions throughout the team that are never going to get the headlines, but they do, in footballing terms, what needs to be done better than a lot of other people in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for him
Every
to have that
great
goal is just ridiculous. That goal was insane form. That was like a Heinz volley. That was not an Antonsen volley that I've ever thought that would happen. Brilliant goal.
Yeah, every great team needs a Mr. Reliable figure. Like, as you mentioned, James Milner for a long time was a perfect example of that. Like 6, 7 out of 10 every week. Never needed to do much more, but you could always rely on him. Recently, obviously, got more of the credit that he deserves. For me, one that rings back, having been a Reading season ticket holder for about 10 years, was Chris Gunter when he played at right back for us, played for Wales for over 100 appearances now. And I could count on one hand the number of times I would have given him man of the match over the years and years that I watched him put consistent great performances in, but never necessarily got the recognition he deserved. And Antonsen is an exceptional part of that and has popped up with a goal this week. And to fair play to him, like celebrate it because you deserve it. The amount of times this season that he's needed to be there, maybe not got all the plaudits, like soak him in now because absolutely thoroughly deserved.
Well, it's funny you should say that about these players that don't get the recognition that they perhaps deserve. That leads me on nicely to my assist of the week, and that's Jansen at Rosenborg. He's been one of our standout players this season. I've watched pretty much every Rosenborg game. I think I missed one because it's usually the girlfriend's fault. Just blame her. It's easy target. But yeah, he has been fantastic. When we're playing him centrally in midfield, or even just slightly over to the right with Berkey in the middle, that's where we're getting the most out of him. Like the other side of where Holzer will be playing, and that's where he was in this game. And the ball comes to him, and he's facing the left-hand side of the pitch towards the player who's passing him the ball, and then he turns his body as he passes the ball forward, first time through ball, straight into the path of Tengstedt. And it was just done in this one sweeping motion where he's just gone from looking at the side of the pitch to the front, and he just hooks it's almost like he hooks the ball around, but he plays this lovely weighted through ball right into Tengstedt's path. The thing is, when he's doing that, there's just going to be goals that follow. And recently, in the last few games, he's getting a few more direct goal involvements. So maybe a few more people are beginning to notice him now. But the fact of the matter is, he's been doing this all season. He's been making these kind of passes all season, and his off the ball movement has been unrivaled in that Rosenborg team. When he's in that midfield at home, he's a big reason as to why we haven't lost at home. And that just typified his performances of late. So yeah, for me, I think that wins assist of the week relatively comfortably this week.
It was the fact that he did it with one touch as well. Like as that pass is played into him, the field looks set. There's probably 3 or 4 easier, more obvious passing options on. and with one touch, literally opens up the Strømsgodset midfield in an instant. Like it was just absolutely perfect. And for me, yeah, assist of the week. Also, I don't think there's much to dispute about that.
Mm.
But one thing I do have is an honourable mention, which is not quite an assist. It's more of a second assist. I have to point out Thor Pedersen's pass to Thakildsen for the
Mm.
Haugesund goal
Yeah.
was
I know what you're talking about.
absolutely outrageous. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, didn't actually bring about an assist. That would have
Yeah.
been very close competition had it been. But what a pass that was!
Yeah.
Just sensational stuff.
Yeah.
Quinn, goals, assists of the week from your perspective?
No, I haven't seen all the passes. But Victor Jensen is a fantastic player, and if you owned by Ajax, I think he's on
Yeah.
loan to
Yep.
Rosenborg.
Yeah.
So if you see in terms of flair and quality, I think he's one of the best midfielders in Eliteserien.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And that is not my Rosenborg bias. That goes out directly to Tom because I know Tom is listening and I know he's rolling his eyes
Yep.
whenever I mention Rosenborg. He hates it. But no, you've got it. You've heard it right here, Tom. Quint agrees. You know, we have the quality there. But the thing is, with Jensen linking up with somebody like Tengstedt. So Tengstedt, when I was looking into him, when we were linked with him, we brought him over and everything. I was doing a bit of a check on previous season, what he does well. And one of the things that stood out to me is he has a really, really good relationship with open space. So he's really, really, really good at identifying where space is going to arrive on the pitch and making sure that he's set up in a position to go into that space. And that goal summed that up perfectly. He was like, right, okay, the ball's been brought into Jensen here. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the defender's shoulder there, and I'm going to be making sure that I can run onto that ball. And he just does it within like a blink of an eye. Just make sure that he's in the right place, picks up the ball, rounds it past the goalkeeper, and then it's a goal. You know, as a defender, as a centre back, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, do I try and stay goal side of him and like try and block him to try and like force him to not do that? Do I try and play him offside? You know, someone like Tengstedt, he just comes across as being impossible to defend against.
Those are the difficult players who can do two things. They can get the ball in their feet, and they have incredible timing and speed into the space. And he seems a player that can do both.
Yeah. His goal conversion rate this season as well is sublime. I think it's something like 29% of his shots have ended up in the back of the net.
Yeah.
So when you know that if a player's shooting 1 in 3 times it's going in, that just adds a whole other aspect to the defending game.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. I mean, when we're looking at the other games, the other results of the week, I watched the Lillestrøm Molde game. Such a close game that was destined to end 0-0. And then I don't know what Lillestrøm were doing at the end of the game. I had my head in my hands. I mean, it's good from a Rosenborg point of view. It's really good. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
But fantasy wasn't great for me because of that. But the way that game ended, it was 0-0. Lillestrøm had a corner, got the ball on the edge of the Molde box, lost it, and then Molde just Fofana picked it up and just ran the length of the pitch, and then squared it to Hussein, and it was 1-0. You know, last kick of the game, done. Title won.
Lillestrøm just got needlessly greedy. They wanted the win and threw everything at it for what seems apparent reason. And when you've got a player like Fofana on the pitch, like he's fresh legs as well. He'd only played 20 minutes. No one's catching him at that point, especially not 6 minutes into additional time. The Lillestrøm defense was torched.
I think with that though, Lillestrøm have to be thinking, well, we want to finish as high up in the league as we can. So they don't want to draw there. They want the win. But that was just a bizarre way to end that game. And then what we've got, obviously, buoyed by the performance of Norheim and Diallo. Yeah, Diallo was just an effective presence in that game. And that's another player that I wanted to mention as well. Eskilsson, Julius Eskilsson at Haugesund. All of a sudden, he's starting to be cropping up on the score sheet every now and then. these last few games, you've been noticing Eskilsson's name more and more and more. Haugesund winning away from home, not just winning at home. Looks a pretty good player. I'm thinking maybe next season we'll see a bit more from him. And they've also got Tanekti as well. So they've got some decent younger players in that side. And yeah, I think to win away at Kristiansund when Kristiansund want as many points as possible, that was an unlikely win. I thought.
Yeah,
I really thought Kristiansund would get the win there.
I was going to say, from a Christensen perspective, that is incredibly frustrating to see teams around them dropping points and not able to capitalize in a home game, which, given their home form, I'd also expected them to win. I had it down as a 2-1 home win, and they just did not step up this week. And Eskilsson, as you rightly say, following that pass from Pedersen to the Gildson, completely cut them open. There was no stopping that. But the fact that they were just then unable to respond is it's just not looking good for them. Suddenly, yet again, last week I became slightly optimistic that they might be able to claw their way back. But with results like that,
well, that was the chance.
Season over before we know it.
That was a chance, and that was a huge. That must have been such a relief for you, Quint, knowing that obviously Kristiansson didn't take advantage of the 3 points dropped at home to Yev. Things are as they were before the game started. Just a point further away from HamKam now, so
yes,
it could have been worse.
We had a big chance as well to get closer to HamKam and Ålesund. I wouldn't say it's a relief because I have actually not been looking down so much, but of course, if Kristiansund would have won, we would have been in even deeper shit.
Yeah, it would have put them just 2 points behind you. So with 4 games to go, that would not have been ideal whatsoever. No. But 5-point gap now seems to have the job done.
Yeah, and I think the last game is Kristiansund Jerv in the season.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely huge game, that one. Kristiansund at home as well. Like, it might mean nothing by that point, but potentially, if something's on the line there, that could be a cracker.
Exactly.
Right. I think we've rounded up the games pretty well, pretty nicely, talked about what's happened and all that. Let's get on to the top 5. And this week, this is a Quint Jansen special. So we're doing the top 5 toughest attackers to defend against. Now, this is where James and we may differ ourselves between each other, and we're probably going to differ to what you say as well, Quint. So we should get a nice, well-rounded discussion here about why we think a player is difficult to defend against, so on and so forth. I'm going to kick us off. I'm going to say probably one of the most obvious examples in the league, and that's Amal Pellegrino. I don't think we can complain too much about that being a choice. Top goal scorer, gets the ball, scores from anywhere, gets assists. Just an incredible player. I was actually in Hamar for the Glimt game. HamKam should have won that game by half time. Had the chances, looked really, really good. Eriksson was on fire. Kongsro was on fire. Really, really decent performance. It wasn't worthy of losing 2-0. I think it was really harsh. But the thing is, when Pellegrino came on for that, 15, 20 minutes, it was like the mood absolutely changed instantly. The crowd was subdued. It was like this, I don't know, this fog just rolled in and then it just disappeared when he walked onto the pitch. Everyone was silent. He got the ball and it was like the parting of the Red Sea. The defenders just tend to just let him in the box, but I know it's not an intentional thing, but it's like, I think what he has going for him is obviously he's quite a tall, skinny, lanky kind of guy. He covers a lot of ground really quickly, effortlessly. So he's deceptively fast. He's that kind of player where he's not going to be running really, really, really fast like that. But he'll take a couple of strides and he's gone about 20 feet. Where the hell's he gone? So I think that makes him a little bit tricky to defend against. But also as well, I think it's just something about his presence, like his aura, his confidence. I don't know what it is. Is it just a case of defenders and the opposition giving him too much respect? Is that it? Or is it just that he's just so good?
Well, what I think is really good about him is this mindset. If he gets the ball, he wants to score or he wants to contribute with an assist. And that's almost the only thing he thinks about, and rightfully so, because he's been amazing at this. And you see every long ball, every clearance, he is smelling mistakes of defenders, and he's gambling on wrong touches, and he's always there, and he's always a threat. So I totally agree. One of the most difficult defenders for the defenders to keep a check on.
Yeah.
As you mentioned as well, it's the fact that every time he gets the ball, he's looking to score. He ranks second for shots in the league this season, yet his goal conversion rate is so ridiculously high.
Is it like 30% or something? It's like
33%. Yeah.
A third of all
you
shots
go
going
down
in.
players, if you go down the players in order of those with the most shots this season, you have to get to 93rd before a player has a higher shot conversion rate. And that is Vecchia.
That is crazy. Yeah. And with him, it's sort of like the way that he'll get the ball, and he's on the left hand side of that front three of Glimt, as we know. That's where he thrives. And he'll just get the ball and he just cuts in, and then it's like, okay, he's like 24 yards away from goal. You just know that he can put that ball into the far corner, and it's going to glide in beautifully, sort of like an Henri kind of finish. It's that kind of thing, and that's what he does. And it's just one of those things where, like, your defender's like, okay, well, if I go to him, he's just going to take it round me, or do like a 1-2 with like Berg or Saltners or something, and then coming around the side of me. But then if I stay off him, he's going to get that extra little yard or two, and then he's just going to put it in the corner anyway. So I don't know what you meant to do.
No, I think no one knows, because I played with Pellegrino in Mjøndalen in 2017, and he was already doing this back then. So he's been doing it every season in and out, and he's still succeeding. So absolutely horrible for a defender to meet him.
Who else would you say is a difficult attacker to sort of play against, to come up against as a centre back?
I made a list because I thought about it, and I have Fofana as well.
Yep.
Of course, quite obvious, but someone who has the technique to drop and get the ball, but also has the timing and the vision to start directly in behind.
Yeah.
I think in a game earlier on in the season, I can't remember which one it was now, whether maybe it was Viking or something. I just noticed that he was in and around the box for the majority of that game. And it wasn't like he was just like a fox in the box, just trying to be given the ball. He was getting stuck in, and he was really trying to link up with people. He was trying to pass the ball into other players. He was just always on the front foot of those attacks again and again and again and again and again. And I think recently we haven't seen that as much. And I know he's been used a bit more sparingly as his input's been spread a bit thinner due to the European games, and I don't know whether there's a fitness issue there or whatever it is, but that what you've just said then about him obviously being able to do those kind of things in that Lillestrøm game, that's exactly what he did. Like, he picked the ball up on the edge of the area and he just ran it the entire length of the pitch. Didn't get greedy for the goal. Knew Hussein's in a much better position. I'll just simply cross it over to him. Just squared it, and then it's in 1-0, League One. So, and I think one of the things that I've criticised Fofana for this season is his decision making. I think sometimes he'll take on the shot because he wants the glory, not necessarily through arrogance, but just because he's confident in his ability, and that's where the best players lie, right? They have to back themselves to make those calls that other players maybe wouldn't feel so happy to make. So I think in time we will see that, and let's not forget he's like 19 still. So do you know what I mean? It's very easy to criticize him. Very easy to criticize him for, he shouldn't have made that decision. But you're thinking, well, he is 19. So actually, maybe that's not the end of the world. If he was like 30 and thinking about that sort of thing, maybe that's when we got an issue. But the fact is, he's 30. He's a confident, hungry player. But that game was really good for him because he was a team player in that moment. And so I think that's really encouraging for him and Mulder and anyone who's going to buy him potentially even next year. He's looking like he's working on that aspect of the game. Obviously, for a defender, awful, because that's another element to his game that you have to deal with.
He was going to be my first mention as well, literally because of, even as of late, being used less, as you mentioned, coming on off the bench. That's almost allowed him to have more of a dramatic impact, more of a concentrated impact. as he did in that Lillestrøm game, obviously won the game with that run. The couple weeks back, 9-minute brace against Jerv to win them that game. It's just concentrated impact. And a fresh Fofana is someone that you do not want to be defending against. He ranks 3rd in the league for dribbles this season, 6th for shots. And something that I also really like about him is he ranks joint 2nd for weak foot goals in the league. So he's both footed. You can never be showing him onto the wrong foot because he doesn't have one.
Yeah.
So absolutely deadly player. As you mentioned, yes, sometimes he can be a bit greedy with the shots, but he also ranks 9th in the league for big chances created this season. So when he is looking up and making that right call, he's doing it incredibly effectively. And just a nightmare. Yeah. Someone who's pretty obvious, along with Pellegrino, who I've gone on to throw on my list, is Sarui. Low center of gravity, fantastic agility, class of his own on his day for elite Syrian players, just in terms of how he plays with the ball at his feet. Top for successful dribbles in the league, the most fouled player in the league, very Grealish-esque statistic there, another horrible player to defend against, but the frequency with which he is fouled just shows the amount of quality he has when on the ball. It's like, if you don't bring him down, he's getting past you. So obviously at points this season, there's going to be, he's had his little low patches, but he's also been incredibly consistent just with purely with the ball at his feet. He gets shots off as well, joint 13th in the league for that. And I think he's another man very, very similar to Fofana, such that he's still young. And I think he's still got a lot more growing to do. And he's definitely going places in the not so distant future.
See, the thing with Saru is it's not just about him getting past you or trying to go the defender out of position. It's the fact that he can pick up the ball any point on that pitch and he can thread it to any point that he wants to. So he can get the ball, I don't know, just over the halfway line, and then he can play a lovely weighted chipped pass 40 yards out wide to the other side of the pitch, and he completely switches play like that. Or he can do quick 1-2s, really nice triangles with players around him, that sort of thing. He opens up a lot of space for his teammates because of how he reads the game. And I think that causes problems for these defensive lines as well, because they're thinking, okay, when we're pushing it up, when we're keeping a high line, you are damn right he is going to be wanting the ball early to try and feed that ball into space and give us something to think about. And that's what he does beautifully. And we saw at the start of this season, the fact of the matter is he was playing some beautiful balls into the box and he was let down by his centre forwards. He was let down by the people around him. So I think it's not only him physically, obviously jinking and jiving past all these defenders, it's the fact that he can create chances that few of the players in the league can, and that gives the defenders something more to think about when he's on the pitch, because they're thinking, okay, is he going to chip this ball in now? Do we have to be worried about this? So now we're thinking about what Saru is doing, and then what Borven's going to do because of what Saru is doing, for example. So it's that kind of thing, when you've played him this season and last season, was it, this season, were you thinking that was a similar sort of thing with him?
Amazing player, absolutely. He covers the passes in behind so well as well. He cuts inside, and before you know it, he chips it in behind you. So a really good player. I have another one on the list that's kind of similar, like Sarui, and that's Tromsø's player, Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible to play against as well. So quick and dribbles both sides and can turn away, has the speed to go past you. Maybe not as good as Sarui to give the decisive pass, but a really good dribbler as well.
And the thing with him is he can get the ball and he'll shoot from 20 yards and it's in. That's the kind of thing. And the thing is, he is like a terrier. So I was watching the Tromsø Molde game, and I think Tromsø should have got a point out of that. I think Molde weren't particularly brilliant in that game. But the thing is, Mikkelsen was multiple levels ahead of the rest of his teammates. He was so much better. And you look at players, and again, this is coming from a purely analytical, fan point of view. This is not us trying to, criticize or offend players. This is just what we see on the games, and we're explaining what we see. But like Lasse Nilsson, for example, Lasse Nilsson was just way off the pace in that game, and you could see it that he was struggling to link up well with Kitolano, who didn't have a particularly great game in that game as well. And then you got Mikkelsen, who was just up here and they were down here. So Mikkelsen was computing that game on such a higher, faster level than anybody else around him. And he just had to do a lot of it on his own in the end. And you can't do that against Mulder. Like, you're not going to score if it's just one person against them. So I think he's kind of let down by everyone else on that pitch. But that does sum up the way that he plays football.
Yeah,
he's
it's the fact that you mentioned,
so quick to process it.
It's the fact that you mentioned he's trying to do everyone's job, but obviously he can't do them all at once. But he's so capable of doing any of them in isolation. Like, he can be playing around the halfway line in possession as more of like a deep lying playmaker. He can step up to the edge of the area and act as a playmaker there. He can play on either wing. His dribbling is obviously sensational. I ranked my picks for this list and he actually ended up being top for me just because of how good he is at dribbling. And then, as you mentioned, he has a deadly shot as well. He's fourth in the league for successful dribbles this season. And among those players with over 30 successful dribbles, he ranks top for percentage completed. So he's got better on average. He's beating players more than often than he's losing the ball relative even to players like Sarui.
So who do you think's got the better chance of having a successful career out of Sarui and Mikkelsen? If we're saying that they're quite similar players, who do you think's got more about them?
That's difficult to see. I know Sarui was already close to a transfer to the Netherlands, I think, but it didn't go through. Sarui is already playing a bit longer on the higher level than Mikkelsen, but I think both can be really good. Sarui maybe has to score a little bit more goals and maybe has to get a little bit more lucky with assists. And Mikkelsen just has to stay injury free, I think. And
see.
I think Sarui has like the head start on that. Like, he's already been linked with these moves away that have unfortunately not come to fruition. He's talked about a lot more in terms of players who are going to get a big move. But if one of those moves doesn't go perfectly for him, then Mikkelsen definitely has the ability to leapfrog him almost. It's just a matter of finding the right move at the right time for the both of them.
See, I think one thing that will determine a lot of this is the mentality of the player. And I think in both Sarui and Mikkelsen, we've got mentally strong young players. And Sarui's shown that this season because he had a bit of a mixed season last season. And obviously he's linked with being moving away. We thought he was going to go. He stayed. Vålerenga haven't really done what we thought they would do this season. It's taken them a while to get up there and really challenge for the medal places. Hasn't gone his way in terms of the people that he's playing with. Vålerenga have spurned so many chances and he would have got frustrated with that. But week in, week out, he's putting in these top performances again and again and again and again and again. And that speaks volumes about what he does. The flip side of that is, I think if you put Mikkelsen into that Vålerenga side, maybe he would have more direct goal involvements than Sarui has this season, because I think Mikkelsen has more about him in terms of being able to score, for example. But again, they're not really comparable players because they don't really occupy the same space on the pitch. Sarui can drop into a midfield three. He can play out wide on the front of a three-prong attack, whereas Mikkelsen's more likely to be up top in a 3-5-2 or maybe just behind the top striker in like the setter role sort of thing. So they are different players. And of course, they both suit their teams really nicely in those positions. But I think the mental side of things is going to determine how far they go. And I think Sarui has definitely shown that this season. But then Mikkelsen to come back from each injury and pretty much score on the game that he's come back from being injured from, they're both there. Like, they're both, mentally switched on. And I think it's just a case of what happens next season is going to be huge for both of them in their careers. And I would love them to stay in the Elite Serien. I think the way that we grow the Elite Serien in terms of a product, in terms of quality, is to keep the best players. I don't want all of our best players to keep on leaving and going up to these bigger teams. But then on the flip side of that, if you can get 50 million like krona for Sarui, you're selling him. There's no way that you're keeping him. So it's that duality which is really, really annoying. But yeah, as a product, I really hope we can hold on to these players rather than just automatically want to let them go. another player who, that leads me on nicely to another player, Heinz. I think he's a nightmare to defend against. I think he's an absolute pain in the arse. Obviously, good news for defenders in the league is that he's going back to Herken at the end of this season because he's just currently on loan. No doubt he's probably going to be sold to another club in a bigger league. I think he's done enough to warrant that, but I would love to see him in the Elite Serie next season again. But like we said, just going back to his goal earlier that we are talking about, the fact that he can pick up the ball wide, cut inside, drift in with the ball, but he does it off the ball as well. It's not just with the ball at his feet. He's in and around the box beautifully. In the game against Yev when they won 4-3, I think it was. He had so many touches in the box. I think it was like 15 touches in the box or something like that. But he's really good with the ball at his feet in the box as well. You know, he doesn't get flustered. He's not one of those players that is going to make a rash decision. He's like, oh yeah, I've got the ball. Okay, fine, yeah. A defender's coming up to me. I'll just sort of like, nick it around him a little bit and then shoot within half a second. He's that kind of player. And the thing is, he's not a big guy. He's about my height, 5'9"-ish, something like that. So he's not this really big, tall, domineering, commanding presence. But he's just so quick, and he can do that turn a shoulder so quickly. He'll get the ball and he'll just drop his shoulder and he's gone. And then he'll jink around and he'll link it with other players. So I think with him, he's got so many aspects of his game that makes him look like a real pain to come up with a decent strategy to nullify him, because we are talking about a player that he can play out wide. He's good at occupying the winger role. He's good at occupying the number 10 role. To be fair, you can give him a free role in and around the area and say, okay, go out wide, come central, go up top, do what you want, and he's going to do that really well. He probably does that better than anyone else in the league, in my opinion. So yeah, for me, he's definitely one of the players that looks like he'd be an absolute, as we said, pain in the ass to deal with as a defender. I don't know if that's what you think of in Quint. I don't know if you've had experience where you're thinking, okay, there's a lot that he can do here rather than just bully me.
Absolutely. Tobias Heinz is a really good player. What I'm maybe lacking a little bit from him is like the ability to move in behind, like his speed. But in terms of shots, passing, dribbling, technique, he's absolutely one of the best.
So you think he's one of those players that if you can box him out a little bit, then you sort of nullify that threat? If you just stay close to him?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you are too close to Fofana or Pellegrino, then they will just start in behind.
Right. Yeah. And this is the thing, you see, you get these different types of players. Some are good to try and box in and get close to, whether others you think, okay, I need to give this guy a little bit of space.
Yeah.
Because he's going to utilize that lack of space far more in a negative way for me. James, who else you got? You going with?
Well, someone also very high on my list who Quint will definitely be able to give us a bit of insight about is Ofkir. He is a spearhead in that Sandefjord attack. He is fantastic in every aspect of his attacking game. 3 goals outside the box this season. His long shots are fantastic. Second in the league in terms of amount of shots. Top for weak foot goals. He has 5 goals on his weaker foot this season, which is just shows again no such thing as his weak foot. And he's also fantastic in terms of chance creation. He's 4th for both key passes and big chances created this season. There is nothing he cannot do when he has that ball. So very much like you were talking about with Sarui, he's capable of both picking that perfect pass, but also dribbling round you and being off in an instant. He's very much capable of both those things, which just makes him an absolute nightmare. I imagine, Quint, that you've had plenty nightmares in training trying to handle him.
Yeah, he's amazing. His dribbling skills and the technique Mua has. He's also on my list, of course. Even though I don't play against him in matches, as you say, I meet him every day, and it's amazing. Left foot shots, right foot, and then sometimes you think he will shoot, and then he puts in another fake shot, and he shoots it with his left foot. Amazing.
See,
the only thing I haven't seen yet is a header.
Yeah,
but other than that, he's been, I think, our best player this season, and maybe even one of the best attackers in the league.
Yeah. See, And he is a strange one. He's a strange one because you look at his career. Obviously, he's been at Sandefjord before and other places. He's never really had that kind of season that he's had this season. It's sort of come out of nowhere, really. And when he was at Sandefjord, I always thought, can they not give this guy more of a chance? Because he'll come on for like 20 minutes and he looks good, and I'm thinking, why aren't they just starting him? And then when he left, I was like, why have they done that? Why have they got rid of him? Like surely, yeah, because he fits the Sarpsborg system really nicely. I thought he's pretty much tailor made for that kind of system. Like
Yeah.
really, he gets so much freedom in that side, and I thought, why have they done that? So when he left, I did think I think that's premature, and I think he's got more to offer. I did not, however, envisage this kind of season. I never thought he would have this kind of season, especially at Sandefjord as well, because obviously we're talking about a team that, as we know, struggling to create things. He is the central hub around which everything else happens. Like he's the conduit for anything creative, for goals, all of that sort of stuff. I didn't realize he had that many key passes though. That is insane. I didn't realize that we're talking about a player that scoring these really good goals, but then fourth for creativity in the league, basically.
It's insane.
That definitely stands out and puts him a little bit higher, hopefully in a lot of other people's estimations, because that's insane. Hopefully not too high, because leaving Sandefjord wouldn't be great, but I think we may be resigned to the fact that that's going to happen next season.
Yes, just get as much money as possible for him.
Well, yeah, exactly that.
Maybe given your goal scoring record as a forward, you can sort that heading aspect out as well. Get him a heading goal.
Probably that was
departs.
my big strength. So maybe I can give him some tips. But other than that, he's amazing. His touch and absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and I think with him as well, he seems to be a really hungry player. He has that drive, and I think maybe that's been sort of growing in him since obviously being at Sarpsborg and other clubs where he wasn't really given the opportunity. Hopefully he feels really home at Sandefjord, because they've given him a chance, and obviously the fans love him, and we know that he's a central figure going forward. He's a central figure all around the park. And I think that's helped with him. I think he comes across to me as somebody who needs to be believed in to get the best out of, and if you don't believe in him, he'll go so far, and he'll probably obviously feel that resistance, like to prove people wrong. But at the same time, it's like, okay, right, okay, we know what you're going to do. You've got 90 minutes to do it. Don't worry about it. Go and do it. That's when you're getting the best out of him. And we've seen that this season. It doesn't matter if it takes him until the 80th minute to score a goal or whatever. He's going to get it. That is the kind of player that he is. And I think he's one of those in the league where he has that drive in him. He has that hunger, that sort of like, I don't know, like the underdog almost, you put me down and underestimate me. I will show you that you've made a mistake there. That's the impression that I get from him. So yeah, I think it's a really good asset to have, and that is a dangerous player for a defender to come up against, because you know what he's doing, and in the next minute it doesn't matter. He's doing something else completely different. Yes. So I think he's a real nightmare. And I think another player like that, so I've got Vecchia on mine. When he's fit, I think Vecchia is one of the most dangerous players in this league. He's sort of like a mixture of all these players that we talked about. This is the thing. There's not one. I don't have much on Vecchia. I've literally described him as a block of dynamite. That's the way that I see him. He's this explosive, dynamic player. The thing is, there's a bit of Pellegrino in him. There's a bit of Ofkir in him. There's a bit of Heinz in him. He can do all these things. And that's why when he's fit and ready to go, that's why he's banging these goals in for fun. And you put him, in that Rosenborg team, and yeah, he's absolutely lethal. The biggest issue with him is his fitness of late. He's struggled the last couple of seasons. When we started this season, I know there's a lot of talk online about him looking a little bit out of shape, that sort of thing. But he still had a really good start to the season. He's been in and out of the team since. Obviously, the last couple of games he's scored and gotten an assist in the last 2 games that he's come on. So he's that kind of player where he has so many different attributes that make him, difficult to plan to deal with. And especially if we're bringing him on for the last 20 minutes of the game, he can change the course of that game very, very easily. So yeah, for me, I think he is genuinely one of the hardest players to defend against because it's trying to work out what he's going to do. Is he going to shoot? Is he linking play up there? Is he going to, track back a little bit more? I think he's got a lot to his game that suggests that he's really, really difficult to defend against, basically.
Yeah, and such a smart player as well, I
Mm.
think, in the way he positions and always a threat. And I don't know, does he have Italian roots?
I'm not. I mean, with a name like that,
Yeah,
yeah,
I have to be careful here now, but
yeah,
you can see that he has something X factor in him. While
yeah,
he doesn't have like the physical attributes in terms of speed or size or quickness, but
yeah.
he just seems to always be in the right position, always taking the right decisions, and just overall a really tactical, smart player.
Yeah,
I think it's incredibly impressive how well he's taken to the Elite Series as well, having been at Sirius in the Allsvenskan, had a really good season in 2020. Obviously, fitness has been the primary issue since then, but 29 Elite Series games so far and 19 goals. Absolutely fantastic record. Condense that into a season, which it very well could be, and you're up there for goals, let alone all the other metrics that we've mentioned, all these other statistics. He'd be ranking so highly if it had a full season to play across a lot, if not all, of the things that we've talked about.
And he can play either flank as well. Like he doesn't need to be on the right or left. He can play either. He can play at the top of a 3-5-2. He can play either side of a 4-3-3. He's that kind of player where there's flexibility in his role and position on the pitch. Sort of like Holzer. Obviously, Holzer's on another level where Holzer can play. You could put Holzer in goal and he'd keep a clean sheet. He's that good. I'm a bit of a Holzer fan. but Vecchia is similar in the sense of, okay, maybe he's a bit more restricted to he really is like a forward, but it's either flank, it's fine. He can cut inside from from the left hand side, use his right foot. You could have him as an offensive winger on the right with his right foot. Crosses, obviously shooting near post, all that sort of stuff. He does it all really, really well. And I think when you're lining up against him, you're thinking, okay, this guy could easily switch, and that's going to cause us a problem as well. So then it's not just like the right back having to deal with him when he's on the left. It's like, okay, the left back's being brought into this now as well. So yeah, game plans sort of go out of the window when he's involved, I think, more so than a lot of other players in the league, which obviously makes him a bit of a nuisance to deal with. Who else have you got on your list, Quint?
I think we've named all my 5 players I have on my list. What I'm missing actually is we've all been talking about quick dribbling players, but I'm missing like a big targets striker. We haven't named any of those.
So I'm going to interrupt you there. I have got one on my list, and I think he's one of the most. Right. So I'm going to preface this by a little story about whenever I play FIFA. I pretty much go to play. I always go the Elite Series and I play Gutsa because I love playing with Salverson. Salverson's like one of my favorite players on FIFA. When he was at Gutsa, he's taken a bit of a while to gel in the Glimt formation. I think he'll come good next season. I think he needs a bit more time. I think he's the perfect player to lead that front three for so many reasons. But this is what you're saying: big target man. Bully. He's a bully. He's a big guy. He's muscular. He's strong. He's powerful. I think with him, he to me seems like a real headache to have to come up against because he's this sort of like almost like this Viking sort of like warrior kind of guy. That he's going to be physical. That he can hold the ball up. He can hold the ball up against 3 defenders. And then that allows other players to run in behind him. It's that sort of thing. So I think he has a lot of aspects to his game where his physicality really, really does help, the rest of his teammates, for example. And the thing is as well, he's more than capable of picking the ball up and scoring from outside the box. He's more,
a
headers.
banger off a left foot.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, when you see him and you line up against him, you're just probably standing there, just rolling your eyes, going, "Let's say it again." Okay, great. Yeah, cool. So yeah, I can imagine as a centre back, he would be a real nuisance. Maybe even more so than a lot of other people that we talked about, because a lot of these other players, they're more out wide, cutting in from out wide. So it's more like fullbacks having to deal with them. Obviously, if you're dragged over there as a centre back, but a lot of these wingers are more on the offensive left. So and you're more left hand side of the fence, aren't you? Usually in the Sandefjord side, so you don't really have to deal with them as much as say Taya, who would be dealing with say like Vecchia a bit more and Pellegrino and all that sort of stuff. Whereas Salverson really will be in there, and you would be the one, and then a lot of the time charged with trying to mark him because of your height and especially from set pieces you'd be in there. So I imagine you must have come up against him a couple of times and really not enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, when he was in good and amazing jumping ability and timing and heading as well. And like I said, a banger of a left foot. Like give him a little space and he just has dynamite in that left foot.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to find his feet at Glimt? And
absolutely, I think he will score 20 goals next year in Eliteserien. I'm not sure if he will take them to the next level in Europe, but in Eliteserien, amazing striker.
Because the thing is, what we've got to remember is he's only recently come back from a pretty big fucking injury as well. Like we are talking about, that screwed up because he was meant to move to Glimt last season. And of course that happened and then that just screwed him up. And it's obviously pushed it back, and obviously he's joined, this season, the start of this season, and taking him a little bit of time to get going and whatnot. But he's sort of there, in with the team. But I think he needs a bit more time to bed in. And I agree with you. I personally think next season he is going to be top goal scorer in the league. I really do. I could absolutely see that happening. James, have you got another one, or have we talked about
one more? Yeah, Salverson teammate, someone that was on my list last week for top players to potentially move away and missed both you and Tom's list, and another player that's missed both your lists this week, Joel Mvuka Magisha. Big fan, quite clearly. His agility, his dribbling skills are fantastic. He keeps getting better. His crossing game has improved so much this season. At the start of the season, not his best attribute. More recently, when I've seen him playing in some of these European games especially, he has a wicked cross on him. His pace, his willingness to try and beat the player, it's not someone that you're going to stand up to and he's going to back down. He's going to try and beat you every single time. And to see recently, obviously, being demoted to the bench with the return of Ola Solbakken, fresh legs off the bench, a quick player like him is just an absolute nightmare. I think it says a lot about him this season that he ranks 5th for successful dribbles. He's 38 successful dribbles, but he's only been dispossessed 23 times. That is a ridiculous ratio for someone who's trying to beat players with the frequency that he is. And to see him as well come out the end of the season, despite not having played as many minutes as some other players, he's also joint 4th for big chances created in the league. Same number as Ofkir with 9. So for him at his age, with his freshness as well, his fitness is there. He's a capable player of playing 90 minutes at such a young age. I think he just looks like an absolute menace.
What impressed me with Mvuka as well is that he came from Osana and wasn't always succeeding there with his dribbles, but he stayed on the course and just keep trying and trying and trying. And you see, he developed in such a dangerous player right now.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
He is growing at a rapid rate.
But that's the thing. It's this. You've got to stay the course. You've got to, okay, maybe I don't do that quite as well, but next year I'm going to progress. I'm going to develop. I'm going to push on. I'm going to get better. And I think he's just got his head down and doing that. And the biggest issue that a lot of young players will have at Glimt is getting playing time, because Glimt do not rotate. They don't like rotating their side at all. I think Mulder have won the league this season and they've not played an identical starting 11 or something, or at least they haven't started with an identical starting lineup or something like that for the whole season. Something ridiculous like that. Anyway, they've played with so many different lineups compared to anyone else in the league, whereas Glimt are the absolute opposite of that. They are antipodean to that. They literally, what they're going to play every single week. So, this is why we've seen players like Nordus, Malkerson, those kind of players leave because they weren't given the time to really do anything at Glimt. Whereas, Mvuka, obviously he's been in when Solbakken's been out, but then to still have an impact from the bench after losing his place, to obviously a better player. Like Solbakken is, one of the best. Definitely before he got injured, was the best out and out winger in the league that we had. For him to still be man enough to say, yeah, it's fine. Okay, yeah, I'll get that. I don't care. I don't care what Solbakken's doing. I don't give a shit. Bring me on.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do. As simple as that. If you're going to pay me for 20 minutes, I'll get you 1 assist then rather than 3. Simple as that. So I think he's that kind of understated, switched on player. I don't think he's got really lofty ambitions to, be like this arrogant footballer. I think he wants to go places, but I think he very much comes across as a very humble, chilled guy. And I think that's reflected in the fact that he's, able to put in the hard work at a club like Glimt. Whereas a lot of other players will be like, no, I want regular playing time. He's more like, I'm going to show you that I need more playing time rather than want to go somewhere else to get the playing time. And I think that says a lot about his work rate, which is really good.
For sure.
I'm going to end it with my last one. Obviously, this is my second Rosenborg player, Tengstedt. We've talked about him already, to be fair. He just does everything. He does everything that we talked about, like his relationship with open space, his relationship hugging defenders. He can drop wide, he can drop deep. He's really good at assisting, building play as well as scoring. He's ice cold. He's got liquid nitrogen running through his veins. He's that kind of player. I mentioned earlier on in the season that I think Marius Sivert Broholm is going to be one of the top players in the Elite Serien in the next couple of years. I think Broholm's going to have a breakout season next year. And I described him as a shark, So I described Broholm as like a hammerhead shark. Tengstedt's a fucking great white. It's as simple as that. He is the apex predator. And every single game that we've seen him play, he has been the top dog. No one comes near him. No, nobody knows how to deal with him. It is like we've gone and dropped a cat on the middle of an island with flightless birds, and this cat is just going around and decimating the birds' populations because they've never seen a cat before. They're like, how do we deal with this? That is what Tengstedt is. Tengstedt is the Komodo dragon on an island full of water buffalo, and he is just chilling and just eating. He is having his fill. That is what he's doing. He looks like a problem nobody knows how to solve, and I thought this when he joined. I thought, okay, I brought him in my fantasy team like the day that he joined. I was waiting for him to be announced on the game as a prize. I was like, I know that this kid is gonna kick off and he's gonna do stuff because in the 3-5-2 he's perfect. He is built for a 3-5-2, and I think that's the only thing with him. Maybe he would fare less well in a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3. The thing is, in a 3-5-2, when you put him up top in a 3-5-2, absolutely beautiful, and he can drop back as well.
There.
Yeah, the thing is, he doesn't need to be the central figure. He can drop a little bit deep. He can switch roles with Serta, which is what they normally do. They do normally switch. One of them will go ahead of the other one, and the other one will drop back a little bit. But he never looks like he's broken a sweat. He never looks like he's tired. He just looks so in control of what's going on. And I think that kind of player is deadly. And the only issue that I have with him is I really don't want him to leave Rosenborg. That's the only thing. I think he's got into the season. Because we're going to get second. I said it a few weeks ago. We are getting second. We'll be in Europe, and he's going to get some European football. I think he's going to stay for next season. But yeah, a lot of other clubs will be interested in this guy. And he's getting more and more involved in the international setup as well. It's not long before he makes a breakthrough there. So yeah, I think we're looking at one of the best players that we've seen in the Elite Serien for, in recent times for position. And I think as we said before, as a centre back, just almost impossible to deal with, because he's going to hug on your shoulder. He's going to go into space. He's going to constantly be working out what you're doing so he can react to it rather than the other way around. And I think that's what makes him so difficult to deal with.
Having talked about those two great goal scorers, here's one for you both. Next season, presuming they're both around, who gets more goals, Tengstedt or Salvesen?
Tengstedt.
Yeah.
Thing is, Right. So the thing is, with Rosenborg, obviously we've just signed Southampton as well. We've got Ingerson coming back into the team. We've got Tengstedt. We'll probably sell Vecchia, I would imagine. We'll probably get a bit of money in for him. Serta is likely to, I think he's likely to leave. I can see online that he's struggling to agree a new contract with us. So I think he might be going. But the fact of the matter is we're going to have Southampton, Tengstedt, Ingerson as our main attacking players. Holster's recently signed a new contract and he loves the club. I can't see Holster going. It's just about building those other positions in the team, getting those other players come through. But I think Tengstedt's already shown that he's finding this league easy enough to score in. And we are by no means the finished puzzle, in this Rosenborg side. Only of late, really, have we found some consistency, but still away from home, we're just not doing the business at all. Best home record in the league, and then we're like fifth in the league for away record or something. Give us a strong preseason and a good start to the season. Thanks, that could have 10 goals by game week 4, game week 5. I think he's going to do a Pellegrino next season. Yeah,
I can't disagree.
Right, just to end it, Quint, who would you say is the most challenging, annoying player that you've ever had to deal with in a game of football? Like
it
one
doesn't
that
have
still
to be
keeps
an
you up.
attacker or a striker, right?
Just someone who you'll randomly think of, God, that was an annoying game. That was really difficult. That's the hardest I've worked because of that guy.
Now I have to dig deep.
Has there been that many?
Yeah, there's been quite some, but not like in an ugly way or anything. I think it's all been quite fair. I think I've never had a striker that's been doing nasty things or
just someone that's been just made a game difficult and really put you through your paces, really made you work harder.
Back in my Mjøndalen days, we had an absolute horrible game against Wadji from Haugesund.
Yes, Wadji. Yeah.
He was just so fast and
he
got caught for doping as well. So,
but, I was going to say that might have something to do with it.
But I don't think he got any faster of that. But he was absolutely difficult to play against.
Yeah, I can imagine. Right. I think we can leave it there. We had a really good chat. We could speak another hour, I'm sure. We could carry on for the rest of the day. Really appreciate you coming on. Good luck for the rest of the season. I think you're going to do it. Yeah, you'll probably be in the qualic, but I think you've got more than enough about you guys. And, I think you're going to stay up and hopefully.
I agree.
Yeah, we can see that happen in the next few weeks. But yeah, GUTTEPRAT episode 4. Nice take on it. No Tom Dent for the first time this season, so that's great. And yeah, really appreciate speaking with you, Quint. And yeah, as I said, good luck for the rest of the season.
Yes, thank you guys. It was a pleasure.